All right, welcome back to part two of episode one, Whiskey with Joe podcast. I'm out of whiskey. Next time I won't be. That'll be fine. Jeremy's just gotten up and gotten himself another one, another Wild Turkey Rare. That's what he's on tonight. So where we left off was kind of where we got to with Jeremy's music journey, which kind of aligns with mine. Like as in we're talking about now where we've introduced working together, uh, and so basically, Jeremy, you started talking about garage band and when we were writing. So that song, am I cool to say the name of it? That one that we worked on? As well.
Go for it.
It's called Throw It in the Water. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And basically, we looked at of just we just looked at how we work together. Jeremy learnt a decent amount, I'd imagine, because I kind of was already doing this stuff with just crappy recordings. But all we had, I was really fortunate because at this time, I was running a tuition business back in Brisbane, and so I'd moved from Emerald, and then the town that I was living in, the Jonas brothers, called Kingaroy, and then I'm back in Brisbane, and so I don't know how long I'd owned the business for, probably not quite 6 months, maybe, or maybe I don't know exactly when it was, but it's in the last few years. So I was running a tuition business, and we had contract teachers. So we had like 5 rooms, and at that point in one of the rooms, we actually had a 90. At the time, it was 93. Now I think it's like 96-year-old upright piano. But this piano was really interesting because it had a brass back instead of a wood back. So so it was heavy, but all of the strings were anchored to the brass back. So when it got tuned, it stayed in tune, but it also had a better resonance because it was resonating off brass, which is a nice warm metal, rather than wood, which is warm but can be deadened a little bit. And Jeremy's like all about the reverb with his music, so it was kind of like spectacular, really, if we think about it, because here we were using an instrument that was donated to my business by some old guy, a really nice guy. I wish I remembered his name. He was really nice, but we didn't really have many dealings with him apart from that, really. And he just needed to get rid of it, and under interesting circumstances. And we were like, yes, we want the students learning to have a good experience with a real acoustic piano, because not every place offers that these days with tuition, right? Particularly in Brisbane, because there's several, like Brisbane's the capital of Queensland, so there's several people there doing tuition and a lot of digital pianos. Anyway, so the cool thing was you could take the front off, because you have to on uprights to be able to, tune them or whatever. But we would take the front off and put a condenser mic at the front of it. So in between Jeremy, and he's playing the keys, but in between him and where the strings are. And so it recorded it, so it was right there. It was like he was playing it. And I'm no whiz even now, even though I've learnt a bit. I'm no whiz on, setting perfect equalization on a mixer, because we'd literally go from that mic into like a little crappy Ashton mixer, and it does the job, but that's all it kind of does. And then we'd just go out of that with a guitar cable into the smallest interface you've ever seen. I've got it here somewhere, and it's called an Apple Jam, and that was lent to me by a good friend who I'd love to have on the podcast at some point. His name's Ben Cleaver, and I'll actually plug him in a sec, because he's got an awesome podcast that I'd love people to get onto as well. It's called Everybody Knows. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I'll definitely have that for the next podcast. Like I'll be able to plug his podcast. I think he's a legend of a guy in so many ways. But yeah, he's lent me this Apogee Jam back like not long before it, and so I'm like, oh, dude, have a like we'll go from the piano condenser mic into the mixer into this little thing that's literally this big, and all it takes is a guitar jack, and it has the really thin cord that plugs USB into um, into the Mac. But what was cool about it was the Mac GarageBand accepts that as an interface. And so we can actually use that audio, fiddle with that audio, like manipulate it if we need to create music. And so it was actually really awesome working with Jeremy, because I was still in the learning phase of getting the most out of that little interface. And so what a time to be alive, hey? But anyway, so continuing with your experience with that, where's that led to?
So I remember at that stage is when we started to get ideas to do stuff, basically.
Yeah.
That would have been beginning of 2019, actually, at the time. And I remember we're having pretty full-on work schedule. But what I would do is when I did get a day off, I'd come down and we'd do that.
Yeah.
And I remember doing that for a bit. It's also when John Mayer came to Brisbane too.
And we gotta pull over and talk about this for a second. So from my point of view, and this is something you guys need to know on the podcast, the listeners. So, and you would have figured this out eventually. My two favorite musical artists of all time are John Mayer and the Eagles. And I learned about the Eagles before John Mayer, and that's what got me into guitar. And I was a drummer first. That's actually the first instrument I learned, but I'm now a guitarist, singer, songwriter. But I always still love the drums. So anyway, the Eagles was an awesome outlet for me to be able to play drums, and also led to me learning lead guitar. And I need to get back into their songs and learn all their repertoire, because they're just so good at writing songs. But then when I moved in to James's place, Jeremy's brother, I actually started to listen to John Mayer, and Slow Dancing in a Burning Room just blew me away. Like, it was the song that made him my favorite artist. And this was only like, I got on the bandwagon for John Mayer quite late in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I just, for some reason, I hadn't really heard that song before, and I don't know why. Like, my musical influences at the time were not probably into John Mayer until that point in my life. So when I was a kid, that's what I mean, that they weren't really into John Mayer too much, just because, it just didn't happen that way. It's not like because I'm still friends with all the people who've influenced me with music, funnily enough, but those people love John Mayer, but it's actually kind of because of me now. But I think it was actually the fact that I was working in the music shop and his music was playing on their iPod through like speakers that we were selling, right? So to demonstrate them, and they played. They just had him on shuffle one day, and I just remember going, "Oh my God, this is the best music I think I've ever heard in my life." Like, the amount of soul and the amount of emotion in the guitar, and how the blues mixed with the pop and soft rock kind of elements, which is totally where I've gone with music in the end. Well, up to this point, at least, for sure. And I've just gone, what a combination. And so I had to learn that song. Anyway, so that was actually a really interesting time, because I had only just met Jeremy around then anyway. And I'd written off, because a few years prior to that, Glenn Fry had actually passed away. And he's one of the lead singers of the Eagles, and one of the main songwriters, and just like he's one of the two top dogs of the Eagles, really. The two top dogs are Glenn Fry and Don Henley. So I thought, I kind of written that off, even though it was a bucket list item to see them live. I kind of went, nah, it'll never happen. but a new bucket list item was added of seeing John Mayer live if possible. And then, no joke, so 2018, it's announced that the Eagles are doing a tour in March 2019, and Glenn Fry's son, Deacon Fry, is actually taking his place, and so is an awesome singer-songwriter, Vince Gill, who I'd never heard of at the time. He's also going to be on there taking some of Glenn Fry's parts together with the band, and I was like, no way. So I got to get tickets for that, and so I went to I went online when they were starting to sell them, and instantly the two cheapest types of tickets were sold out in Brisbane. And I went, that's not good enough. Like, I've got to see the Eagles because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I was looking at the next ones, and I went, oh, they're a bit expensive. I'll come back to that if I can't get any for Sydney. And I'd never been to Sydney, so I thought I'll use it as a chance to have a road trip, which I ended up doing because I went through the tickets in Sydney, and again, their cheap ones were gone. Like, okay, well, this is not good enough. I have to get them. So I bought these tickets, and I forgot that I actually went up a couple of rungs in price and therefore in standard. And like when I actually went to the concert. But yes, I went, oh, I've got to get these tickets and I've got to see them. And I wanted to actually go with that Ben Cleaver fellow. But ended up, he ended up not being able to do it for family reasons and stuff like that, which is totally fair. And so I ended up actually going with this chick who was a student at A+ at the time. Lovely person. Just as friends, just went for a road trip, had an adventure. It was good fun to just go on a road trip for a music thing like that I'd been building up for years of my life. And that was just so cool. Anyway, but just like before it came around to 2019 for that tour, later in 2018, all of a sudden, John Mayer's tour gets announced for March 2019. And I'm like, you've got to be shitting me, right? So I instantly, I looked at the dates of when the tickets were being sold, and I went, I've got to get tickets. So I bought 2 tickets for John Mayer, again wanting to go with Ben Cleaver, and again, at the time he couldn't make it. Turns out then, but like the circumstances had changed closer to the time of the concert. So Ben and his lovely wife, Jess, actually ended up being able to go there. And that was just cool to be able to run into them there. And I ran into some other people that I knew as well. It was just a great time. But it was crazy because the Eagles played their show in Sydney, 2019, March the 13th. John Mayer played his show literally like a week and a half later. So, or almost 2 weeks later, not quite 2 weeks, right? In Brisbane. So I was like, okay. So I did the road trip. We left on me and that lady, we left Brisbane on the 12th, got down to Armadale, stayed the night at an Airbnb, and then drove to our next Airbnb in Sydney and just got ready in time to get on the train and get to Kudos Bank Arena to see the Eagles. Oh man, it was so cool. So yeah, I get there and all of a sudden I realize, oh, my seats, because I'm looking for our gate, and our gate's like 67 or something, and I'm going, we're still not at our gate. And it walks us round, and it turns out that the view of the stage that I got was not front on like you and I kind of had, even though we were really far back, Joel, at John Mayer's concert. Instead of looking at the front of the stage, we were up high and to the left of the stage, looking down at the whole band streamlined from the side of the stage. And the sound was incredible. And it was crazy. So even though we were up high, we had a really awesome view, and I got to see my favorite band in the coolest way. I've totally ticked that off the bucket list, right? But and then we finish it. Like the next day, we just do some sightseeing around Sydney, and then the day after we drive the whole way back to Brizzy in one day. So that was that road trip. But then a week and a half later, Jeremy and I, Jeremy ended up buying the second ticket and coming with me to to John Mayer, because by then Jeremy was a fan of John Mayer as well. And do you remember that day, Gel? He actually did one of his
live
current mood.
Live
He
video.
had a podcast
Yeah.
kind of thing happening at the time on Instagram, and I can't wait for him to bring that back. Anyway, because current mood's just amazing. Anyway, he started to get into songs that he was going to play that he doesn't normally play because they're not particularly crowd favorites, and I'm just going, what the heck? Because we were recording, but we ended up spending like an hour of that recording time actually just watching Current Mood, Jeremy and I, and so yeah, we come back home, get ready, and we go to John Mayer, and it was so awesome. Like, do you remember it much? Or
yeah, I remember the day.
Yeah, you remember him opening with Belief, and he starts out like the keyboardist plays these light ambient chords, and he just shreds over it with his, at the time, brand new PRS Silver Sky, and you're just going, oh, this shit is awesome. And you're just thinking, what? And from the first few notes that he played, I went, this is going to be a great show. And sure enough, we got knocked on our freaking six, because he played almost all our favorites except Gravity, which is his like most well-known song of all time almost. And Jeremy and I were like, I think Jeremy was disappointed about it, were you? A bit?
Oh, a little bit.
And then there was another song that he plays every now and then, so it's not like not a crowd favorite, it's just that he plays it when he wants. Like, so the crowd loves it, but he just plays it when he wants. And unfortunately, we also didn't get Edge of Desire. That's the song I'm talking about, which is another, like at the time, Jeremy and I were just like in trance mode with that song. And so, yeah, but it was such a great time in our life. Hey, like even though work had pressure and even though all those things, because you know what? I think it was that summer we came off the back of doing surfing from 2018 into 2019. So we were spending a lot of time together.
Yeah.
I would come up. I bought a surfboard in October. By the way, just to give you guys the results now before it comes out in some other way, I've still never stood up when trying to surf. It still hasn't happened. So we'll have to remedy that at some point. I try, I promise, I fall. That's what happens. But anyway, it was cool to spend a lot of time out in the sun, in the water, in nature, So Jeremy and I would do that. So we were just in the coolest part of our life at the time, because we just, even though there was all this pressure from work, because we were both kind of working like 6 days a week, me running the business, Jeremy in telecommunications, which he's still in at the moment. We would just go out and surf. Like, we just picked a beach, and we found that Noosa was the best spot close to where you lived, because the waves were just beautiful. The water was always beautiful. And if you walked far enough, you could find a place where there weren't too many surfers, even though surfers love the Noosa area. And so it was just great to spend time in the water. So we would just do things. We just spent a summer hanging out and just enjoying life, even though we're under pressure with work, even though we're middle class and not getting like crap loads of money, yet. We're just spending time, hey, just enjoying that kind of thing. And then to top it off, towards the end of the surfing season, for me at least, because I don't like cold water, with John Mayer, like the Eagles and John Mayer, for me, that was just like, what a time in our life. And this was a full year before COVID broke out. So some other cool and not so cool things happened in between then and COVID. But yeah, so to continue with the music, because we've still got another 40 minutes, before this segment ends. So where's that gone for you in between then and
now? From that time, I think what happened from seeing John Mayer during that year, we worked on a bit more stuff. I can remember in May, which was your birthday that year.
Yeah.
I can remember working on the. It was really late at night. I think you were asleep, but I remember staying up really late, and I was just making this song. Still, it's on YouTube too, and it's yeah, it's really nice. It's actually I think it's one of the most viewed videos at the moment. That particular song. That was your birthday.
It was, right. Oh
It
yeah,
was your birthday.
we had all the Bracco crew come over.
Yeah.
And they all left. You were the only one to still stay. And
Yeah.
I remember that now. Yeah, it was literally my birthday because my birthday fell on the Saturday that year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being up pretty late, just enjoying fiddling with the GarageBand on your computer. Anyway, it kind of went from there. I started getting more into the editing side of things or the electronic side of things. So
Like effects and other things like that. Do you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And just kind of like learning how it all works. Anyway, and then come around a couple months later, my work changed a bit, and I ended up getting an iPad because of work. Anyway, I eventually figured out that it had GarageBand on it too.
Right.
And just kind of started like just playing with it. And that was really interesting because I learned a lot from that and started working on a lot of stuff and just for the fun of it, and ended up just making a few songs. And anyway, I ended up having to give it back because of work. I didn't need it anymore. And a couple of months passed, and I kind of like liked how it worked.
Yeah.
So I decided, like, okay, I think I kind of started to miss it. So I was like, all right, I think I might get my own because that was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's over a year ago now, and boy, have things changed a lot.
You've been very consistent with just working on the next thing, and the way you work is very interesting to me because I think some ways we're similar and some ways we're so different. Because, well, one way that we're definitely different is that Jeremy's music, your music is very is instrumentals. There's no lyrics, whereas which is awesome. I think that's great, and I think that they're so cool for the purposes that they've been made for. Because it is relaxing to just listen to nice notes and chords. Like, oh man, there's nothing. Sometimes there's nothing better for the moment than that, right? But yeah, the music I do is probably more mainstream as far as it has lyrics. It's like instead of being an instrumental, it's a song. And there's enough, like, as in, that's the difference. That's not saying one's better or the other. That's just one of the big differences. So I think that probably contributes to the way we work on a song, right? Because I kind of like, if I go into how I work on a song, some songs can be written really quickly because you kind of got the feeling in your mind, and you kind of just like you kind of hear the melody, and so you pick out that melody and you go, I can hear the chords under that now. And so, like, that's the way I work. I actually generally get melodies and chords before I get lyrics, because I'm a muso first, then a singer, I guess. But it ends up meaning that I kind of stack everything, generally. But the thing about that process is, for me, that song can take anywhere from 1 hour. That's the quickest I've written a song. And it can go like a weekend. It can go like, there was one song that I started writing before I even left for Emerald. And I only finished it like early 2020 or late 2019. So like, as in, because I left it for ages because I don't know what to do with it next. And I'm so glad I did, because I learnt musically some things in that time, and it is one of my favorite songs. It's going to come out on my first EP. It's probably going to be one of the singles on that EP. And I can't wait for people to hear it. And I'm probably going to do a full band version and an acoustic version, because it's just it was actually written. Actually, that ties back into John Mayer. Do you remember, Jeremy, at that concert, how he played a song called "Go Easy on Me," and it was just him on his electric, like him singing and his electric, but no backing band, and it was just clean, his electric. It was after that concert that I played Love. Well, sorry, I was almost going to say the name of the song. I might save that for later. Actually, no, it's on Instagram as a live song. So it's called Love Struck. It's going to be on my first EP, and it's probably going to be the single. It's a great song. I can't wait to properly record it. And I'm getting that done slowly with my awesome producer, who I'll probably have on this podcast at some point just for fun. Again, because that's what this podcast is about. It's about, it's meaningful, and it's about, learning things together, but it's also about fun, right? And so it'll be great to have my producer on there. But anyway, he played that song, and he didn't play "Go Easy on Me" for basically anyone else, because I followed the set list because he was posting them. I followed the set lists through the world tour, because he did New Zealand first, then he did Australia, then he did like Indonesia and Japan and stuff, and then he went to America and then the UK, America, UK, Europe. And I don't think he played "Go Easy on Me" for anyone else. I could be wrong. I'm ready to be corrected by anyone who's listening. Goes, yeah, he played it in Denmark or something, whatever they end up doing. But yeah, he played "Go Easy on Me," and I just went, how cool is that? A guy can do an acoustic kind of song on an electric, if it's clean. And I just
he played it in Bourbon for me.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, so it was just such an interesting thing to me. So I picked up that song again and played it with my electric, and just went, oh yeah, that's what I want out of the song. And so then I wrote the rest of the song. It's something I'm very proud of. I can't wait to release it. But yeah, I forgot exactly what brought me onto that topic. But yeah, I can't wait to release that song. But that, again, going back to that John Mayer concert, I think we probably both learnt a lot about music out of that concert, and stuff. And we'll have plenty of opportunities in the future, Joel, to talk about music another time. But is there anything else you wanted to say before we move on to, anything else? Like, more you wanted to say on music before we move on?
It's
Well, yeah, because actually what I was asking you about is, what's the creative process like for you? How long does it generally take for you to write a song? That's how I got.
Yeah, to make a song. It's kind of the same thing again for me. Sometimes it can be pretty quick, but like I've had songs that I've just kind of like worked on and off for like a couple of months. I'm usually pretty dedicated when I find a song that I'll just keep working on it. I generally seem to be putting a song out once a month, roughly, at this stage. And sometimes I've been working on them for quite a while, but generally it'll be more based off what's going on at the time, how I'm feeling, all that kind of stuff, as to how, if what that song is, as to whether it's relevant. And if it's relevant, I'll be able to finish it really quickly.
Yeah.
Though there's songs that I've made like over a year ago. Just honestly, there's like, I wouldn't say hundreds, but it'd be kind of close.
Yeah.
That many songs are just stuff that you just make. You just got an idea, and sometimes you just can't finish it because you're just not ready for it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I make a song is, it's a little bit different, of course. I don't have like a set way that I do it, but it's definitely, I've kind of gotten. No, actually, a lot of the times it's just like me stuffing around, and I'm just pick something, and then we'll play with it until I find something that I like, and then it'll give me an idea.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like will stuff around for a little bit, and then it'll just hit you. And then when it hits you, you just know, you just like, sometimes when you just get that hit, you just get so excited because you're like, oh, did you realize what it is?
Yeah.
And it kind of starts picking up pretty quickly from there.
Yeah.
But generally, I find being a pianist, that'd be where I start.
Yeah.
Is the pianos, sometimes even the drums, and just build on it from there. But yeah, most of the time just depends on how I'm feeling as to where I start and then where it goes from there. But generally, it'll have some kind of meaning behind it, the song,
Right.
some kind of story to a degree, and I'll find a way to kind of put that story into a song, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like every song has a story behind it, and I know that when I listen to it, I was like, remember what it was about.
Right.
Some people might be the same thing, might be able to understand what it's about. But yeah, it's all about how everyone translates it, I guess, to how they understand it. Some people will pick up on it, some people won't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I find every song of mine like definitely has a story. Generally, I'll probably say that there's one song that'll eventually come out of mine that was kind of just fun, and that's all it was. And I just came up with the lyrics because they kind of just suited the song. But at the time, I hadn't necessarily had that kind of experience, not in that way at least. I may have had like things that kind of made sense, like, and I understood people having that experience, but yeah, it was just like, it's just such a fun song that I went, but I don't care what anyone thinks about whether it's got a like in-depth story or not. It's because the main thing about the song, I definitely have felt, and it's the chorus. Anyway, so but I'm not going to talk about that song yet because it's not very like known yet. But definitely there's songs where like a lot of my songs will I may not necessarily start writing them like writing the song at the very beginning with the story in mind, but the current things that are happening in my life at the time of writing the song just come out into it, and then I go, oh, okay, now I know where to take this song, and they kind of join together and then move forward together from there. Because I will write from the guitar first, uh, rarely from a different instrument first, but it's happened. Yeah, so um, definitely, like, I suppose, like, where do we see, like, I'll start and then you can, see what you want to say about this. But where I see myself taking my music is definitely becoming a touring artist and a recording artist and a session musician. Actually, I'd love to collaborate with other people on their music. I, yeah, just want to explore that whole thing. And it's definitely probably what I see myself doing eventually as my main career. But yeah, so I'm kind of getting back into it after having not necessarily a diversion, but I've been experiencing life, which is actually helping my music. So I've had some interesting life experiences over the well, over life, but also recently. And um, it's something that I'm starting to look back on and go, this will be good for me for my future. And so I'm getting back into it, and I'm just getting into this point where I'm just like, I've just got to keep creating content. So I got a TikTok. I got I got back on my Instagram, my music Instagram page, and then I just thought for some reason tonight, well, just over the past week, but it was just the perfect timing tonight somehow, and it's really worked out to get on this podcast, because there's other things I want to do. Like, I think we're both creative in some other ways, and this will branch us into the next topic, Joel. But you and I, in quite different ways, are what do you say, creative, like in comedy. And Whiskey with Joe is supposed to have comedy involved, but this first one's just been a lot about learning. So there's not been as much comedy. And we may have more episodes like that. We'll see where this podcast goes. But definitely part of it at the moment I see is having bits of comedy here and there. So as the podcast grows and develops, it'll have more of that. But yeah, definitely is something I at least enjoy. Like, even if all the comedy I ever do is in this podcast with my mates, at least, like, I'll be getting having outlet for that, because at the time we come up with some really funny shit on PUBG, and just in day-to-day life, like going right back to when Jeremy was saying he looks at the world differently. Like, you've never seen someone with a comedic mind like Jeremy Chaseling. He is a very different guy. So like, eventually I'd love to, well, eventually I would love, but I'm not, like, as in, this isn't an expectation to ever actually occur. If it does, it'll be fantastic. But just some stand up. I love stand up, and I love interacting with people and a crowd from my music. So I would love to be involved somewhat in something like that at some point, but not as a main career, as just for fun. Uh, but yeah, like, I think one thing that Jeremy will end up talking about in a sec is definitely skit comedy. You and I, particularly yourself, definitely have a knack. Like, definitely Jeremy, have a knack for coming up with characters and different things. And we alluded to that earlier with Bourbon, and stuff like that. So Jeremy's probably come up with at least 10 characters, if not like 100 in his head. I always make a joke about him being schizophrenic, because he seems to have all these voices in his head that just come around there, kind of like the movie Split. So do you want to dive into that a bit?
Yeah, all right, sure. Actually, we could like talk about the characters and the inspiration behind them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did you want to
So,
at the time, or
yeah, we can do that now. Yeah. Actually,
we got 20
this would probably be a good point to have a break, because then,
well, did you want to conclude today's episode, and then write down stuff about like what you're thinking about now, and we can still be on the Zoom call after and just plan the next episode. Like, did you want to kind of do closing? Because we've got 20 minutes. So, if we go on a tangent, we still have a bit of time. But what I'd love to do before things close is one, thank the audience, which I'll be doing several times over this next little while. But just to plug a few things. So I'll go first. So these links I will, or definitely just the names I'll put in the description, both on YouTube and on this app called Anchor that we're on, and Anchor will distribute for me the podcast. I don't know necessarily how that works, and we'll see how that goes. But basically, what I'm thinking is, we'll plug a few things. So I will be putting up, because I think this is actually a fairly successful. I'm happy with this first episode. How are you feeling about it?
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, sweet.
Despite the yawn.
Yeah, despite the yawn and having the long day at work that you did, and because it was funny when we like a couple of hours before we started this pod, like we actually started filming today or tonight, technically here in Australia. Jeremy just sent me a Snapchat, and it just had a 4-pack of Wild Turkey Rare in his hand, and Dad got this awesome. He would be a great person to have on the podcast actually at some point. My dad, David, he's fantastic. He got given for his 50th a bottle of bourbon, and it's kind of like an awesome mix. So that's the one I've been drinking, Buffalo Trace, and I love it. Because Dad, I've several times I've let Dad drink my whiskeys, because I always want him to taste it, because I'm just interested in sharing it and enjoying the community that whiskey brings, which will become a more common theme over the time in this podcast as well. But he's let me have some because he wanted to, give me back and let me enjoy some of it too. And so I've had some tonight. And so I just thought, hang on, I have some whiskey. Jeremy has some whiskey, and I've been feeling the need for this podcast. So I thought it was a perfect time to let it begin. Jeremy's playing with his lights right now. Better than playing with himself. Anyway, so and then that's when you're supposed to say, who said I'm not? Anyway, so let's plug some things. So I'll be developing now. After this episode, I will make another, I'll make an Instagram page for Whiskey with Joe. I will put that in the description when I post this, so that you can follow and keep up to date with what's going on. I will I'm not sure if I'll make a TikTok for it. I did for my music page, just because it's a good way to get followers, and because I want to share my music with as many people as possible. So what I'll plug first is my music page. So this is on Instagram. It's different on Facebook, but it's the same on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. It is at Josiah, which is spelled JOSIAH, and then _ music _ official. So that's Josiah Music Official, with underscores in between. And so that's the same on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So if you're looking for my content, at the moment, that's where to find it. Eventually, I'll be plugging that I've got it on, I've got music out there on Spotify, iTunes, all the goodies. But yeah, so my Facebook page is at Josiah the Musician Official, because that's all I could get at the time. Unfortunately, I wish it would be more uniform, but that's just the way it is. So at Josiah the Musician Official on Facebook, and then on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, it is at Josiah _ music _ official. And yes, that's where to find my music. And obviously, like I said, I'll develop a page on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube for this awesome podcast. So keep an eye out on those pages because I'm posting a lot more now. And just I'm trying to develop that following. I'm trying to develop this community with you guys. I want you to be part of it. I want you to watch it. I want you to enjoy it. I want to make this content for you because it's been inside me too long and it needs to just be let out to the public. So that is where my head's at, and that's just where it's going to continue to be. At this stage, that's all I have to plug. So, Jeremy, would you like to plug any pages for people to follow your music?
Yeah, well, my stuff is actually consistent.
Yes. His has been consistent. Mine is becoming consistent. Yeah.
Mine is easy. Everything is chase.ling.
Yeah.
Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Music. Yeah, those 4.
So how do you spell that, just so that everyone,
Chase, as if you're chasing something.
Yeah.
.ling, Ling.
And are there capitals involved in any of that, or like?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, should be fine though.
Either way, on the descriptions of all of these, I'll actually type them out, so that people Sorry, just a really funny face. So that people have the actual written form so that they can follow it. So look, guys, the goal for this podcast, there's a few, but the main one is just so that people can have fun. They can hear different opinions about the world. They can hear thoughts that they've never thought about, and that we can all enjoy it over a glass of whiskey. So, bring your own whiskey, gown, and cigar to the next episode. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in the 13 minutes we have left? Or
well, I think we covered all the relative subjects.
Yeah.
For this one.
Yeah, I think so. Sweet. Well, thanks again, guys, for listening. And Jeremy, if you signed off first, then I'll sign off after.
Salutes.
Salute. That's going to be a freaking catchphrase, so you have to say it.
Salutes. See you, my buenos.
Yeah, my buenos. That's freaking Australian and Mexican. Well, Spanish. Hey, Spanish. There you go. And look, I'll say we'll
Yo hablo
over time. Huh?
Yo español.
Yeah, Jeremy speaks Spanish for all you guys, and maybe I'm going to have to touch up on my Russian. Though this is a podcast, I do like to speak Russian. So I'll have to touch up on it.
Yes. I speak the español. Yo necesito leche.
I know he said some weird shit. I'm gonna leave it at that. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. It's been great to chat with you, Jeremy, and there'll be so many more times for us to do this because Jeremy's going to be like one of the main guests that's on a lot because he's my best friend, and these are the kinds of conversations that we've had for years. But I've wanted to share this kind of thing because I feel like it's good for people. So I've wanted to share this, and that's how this idea has come about, and it's so great to finally have it happening. So thanks again for listening, guys. Enjoy that last glass of whiskey for the night, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much.